All right, so this is part 2 of Shift Run with Stamina, and now we're actually going to work on the stamina itself and this UI. So the stamina goes down as I'm running. If I stop or start walking, it's going to build back up. That's pretty cool. If you didn't do part 1, that's fine. I'll put the code in the description, and then I'll start with this fresh world and then show you where to paste it. So let's go ahead and get started with that. All right, so here's my fresh base plate. I have nothing in it. I have to get my stuff from part 1. So I'm going to go to my web browser, and then I'll put this link in the description. It's the paste bin. So a lot of times I put code in paste bin and I'll put the link there. I'm going to go here, maybe hit raw, and that'll give me my raw code. Control A to copy, Control C, or Control A to select all, Control C to copy. And I'll shrink this down, go to starter player, starter character scripts, hit the plus, local script. We'll call that Shift Run. Let's go over here and do a Control V to paste. And now you have everything from the last video. Pretty cool. Let's try it out real fast. Just make sure there's no errors. View, output. I can run and I can not run. Cool beans. All right, let's go ahead and add to this. So I'll turn that off, go to my base plate. I'll shrink this window down or get rid of that window. And I want my shift to run to actually interact with my graphical user interface. I'm going to show you how to do that too. Just keep that in mind. I'm going to get my starter GUI, screen GUI, frame. This is going to be my background frame for my stamina bar. Say back FRM. And we're going to get it down here. You can move it around, of course, wherever you want. Let's go and change some of the settings here. I want to look at the size first. I'm going to put the size on scale. So I'm going to go to this top line here. You don't need to put curly brackets in when you're entering stuff. And I played around with it. Maybe 0.25, 25% of the screen GUI size on the X, 0 pixel offset, and then 0.03, that's 3% of the screen GUI on the Y, 0 pixel offset. That seems to work. And you could squash it down by hand if you want, if you feel more comfortable with that. All right, my position is already on the scale. I like that. I don't want to have position using pixels. Let's see, what do we got to do? Let's go ahead and get this background frame, and I want to round it out. So I'm going to do a corner, a UI corner, and that rounded out my frame. See that little rounding there? But that's only an 8 pixel rounding. That's the default. Let's make it rounder than that. Let's go to corner radius on UI corner, and I'm going to make it, it's a scale and an offset. I'm going to make it 0.5, so 50% scale, 0 pixel offset, and that's going to make this corner, or this whole end, the shortest end, completely round. So if you have a square and you put UI corner with a 0.5 corner radius on the scale, you're going to make a circle, and we're going to see that with our sprint button. Anyway, it's the way I like it now. So let's go ahead and Control D to duplicate it. And then this is going to be my stamina frame. And it also has the UI on it, the UI round or UI corner on it. So one is the frame, one is the background. The background, I want to make this kind of transparent. So let's go down to background transparency. I'm going to make it 0.7. And then I want my stamina frame on top of this. I think I'm going to make the stamina frame a child of the back frame, right? And now it's all squashed down because we were using size and position based on the screen GUI. Now that's the parent. So I have to change the size and position of my stamina frame. It's not going to be that hard though. Size is going to be 100% of the X and the Y. So I'll say 1 on the X, 0 pixel offset, 1 on the Y, 0 pixel offset. So we're going to scale it. But now the position's not quite right. So let's go to position. And that's going to be easy too. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And that, because the anchor point defaults to the upper left, it anchored it right to the top of where my background was. That's pretty cool. And now we'll make this background color green. All right. And then it's going to shrink down like this. And you're going to see that background. That's going to be cool. You want it to shrink this direction. So you want to make sure that the corner is, or the anchor point is on this side. If you move your anchor point, everything is going to shrink in towards the anchor point. Just keep that in mind. If you start messing with the anchor points on this, and then your resizing doesn't happen the way you want it, it should happen like this, right? There we go. Cool. Now we need like a label here for stamina and a button here for the sprint. Let's go to background frame, text label. That's going to be my sprint. And I am going to mess with the anchor point on that. I'm going to make the anchor point on the X 1, so it's going to be all the way on the right of that component, and then 0.5 for the Y. So the anchor point's right there. That way, when I go to line it up, I can line it a little better. Now, if you go down to the position, you're going to see that that's not quite perfectly aligned. The Y should be 0.5, and it never is. But watch, if I change it to 0.5 in the position for the Y, it's going to hardly move. You can't even tell. Anyway, that's the problem with looking at that green line. It's not going to be quite perfect. All right, let's change the size of that. We don't need it to be that big. It's taking up a lot of real estate. There's our size down here. And it is in pixels. I'm going to make it scale, right? So it's going to scale to the parent object, which is the background frame. So I'm going to make it 25% on the X. So I'll say 0.25 on the X, 0 pixel offset. But I want it to be bigger on the Y. So I'm going to do 1.5 on the Y, 0 pixel offset. That's going to make it 150% of the Y of the background frame. So it's going to be a little bit bigger. All right, what else do we got? Let's go ahead and change. Let's make the background of this transparent so we don't see it. So I'm going to go to background transparency on my text label, hit a 1, and now you could just see the text. And I know it's tiny. I'm going to make it bigger in a second. Let's scroll down here. Let's name the component. Instead of text label, let's call it stamina label. And we'll keep on going. We'll make the font bangers or whatever you like. And then for text, I'm going to call this stamina, which I know you still can't really see it. We're going to fix that right now with text scaled. Boom. Makes it a little bigger. All right, I'll change the text color to something bright like yellow. And then I want to have outlines around the letters. So I'm going to go to text stroke transparency. It defaults to 1, which is invisible. We're going to make it 0. And it's also defaulted to black. And I think that's fine. That looks good. All right, let's add our button over here. So back frame, and I'll put a button as a child on it. Here's my button. This is going to be my sprint button. We can change that now. Sprint button. Cool. And what else we got to change on that? We can change the color since we're here. I think I made it purple in the video. Probably not a great choice. Not bad. And let's see, name is good. Position, well, that's in scale, so we can move that around. Size, I want to make that, I want to keep this in pixels because I want to keep it circular. When you scale and you change your dimensions, your XY dimensions, you could get like an egg shaped, or, well, I guess it would be an oval shaped. So I'm going to make this 0 and 60 on the X and 0 and 60 on the Y. Cool. And it's going to be right about here. We could change our anchor point to right here to make sure to get it centered. Let's do that. Scroll up, anchor point. 0 is good and 0.5 on the Y. And then we'll see if we can get it on that green line. Let's see if it actually told us the truth, and it is at 0.5 on the Y. It's not. It's at 0.482. Let's make it a 0.5. There you go. Couldn't even see it change. All right, let's make this round too. Actually, I'm going to move it a little bit closer. Let's make it round. And we already have a UI corner round, with a 0.5 scale for the corner radius. Let's do a Control D to duplicate it, drag it down to our button. Nice. And now let's work on the text for that button. Make sure your sprint button is selected. Go down, change maybe the font to whatever you had on your label. I made it bangers. I'll call this sprint. And now, because this is absolute pixels, I don't think I'm going to do a text scaled. I think I'm just going to write in 25, maybe smaller than that. 20 for my font, for my text size font. Right? I don't have to worry about it shrinking and growing. All right, I'm going to change the color of the text to match, make that yellow. And then the text stroke transparency, I'll make to 1, so we get a little outline. There you go, you got your UI. Let's see how it reacts to changing the size of the screen. That's pretty good because we used a lot of scale. Now we still did use pixels here, so it is possible that we could mess up. Let's go here. This is an iPhone 5. I'm actually all right with that. iPhone 5 is pretty old. Let's take a look at a 7. So everything else has better resolution for the phones. Well, maybe the Androids now. I think they do though. And then the tablets are good too. Let's get like an iPad. I think this is going to be fine. The poor iPhone 5 people are just going to have to struggle. But you can spend as much time. Look at that, even iPhone 6, it's fine. Cool, let's go back to our regular view. And now let's start coding. So our original code was in here. If we take a look real quick, you will notice that even though it was in starter character, somebody actually did notice, I used the player service, got the player, and then got the character. Well, in starter character scripts, you can get the character from the script.parent because the script gets put into the character. But I knew that I was going to do this. I'm going to take this script and I'm going to drag it to my background frame because I want it to be able to interact with my components. My stamina frame. Oh, stamina, did I spell it wrong? Let me add an A there, stamina. And my sprint button. So this will work anywhere. That's why I added those. All right, let's take a look. So we need to hook this in and we need to hook this in. Let's work on the button first. So I'm going to go and get 2 variables for my button, and I might as well do the frame since I'm declaring variables. I'll say sprint button, script.parent dot sprint button. And then I'll do my, what is that, stamina frame? I'll call it a stamina bar for the variable. Script.parent, and that's stamina frame here. That gets the reference, but this is my variable that I'm going to be using. All right, now let's go ahead. Since we're declaring variables, we have one more variable we want to do, and then I'll start working on the button. I want actually to make a variable for stamina, and I am going to make it on a scale from 0 to 1, 1 being 100%, because I'm going to multiply the bar's scale size by this value, and the percentages will match up, and it'll be convenient. All right, now we need our shift and our button to act so that they can work together. So if you shift with your keyboard and then you hit your button, it should be seamless. You shouldn't have to worry about whether you hit the button or the button or the key. So I'm going to make this update sprint state. Let's do sprint state function, and then I'm going to hook both of those things, those user input services, into this function. I'm going to make running not running, and then I'm going to change the text of my button. So if running, then sprint button dot text is going to equal walk, right? Else, let's assume I'm not running. I'll say sprint button dot text equals sprint. So it's going to give you the option to do what you're not doing. Now, where do we use this? Let's go ahead and copy it. Well, down here, here's our sprint button yeah, if we hit our shift key, the input began will fire because a keyboard event happened. We're going to check to make sure it's the left shift, and then we do the run, not run. Let's just go ahead and paste that update sprint state. And now let's add our sprint button dot activated, which the touchscreen will activate it too. It doesn't have to be a mouse. We'll connect that to the exact same thing, update sprint state. So now it doesn't matter what you hit. It's going to be the same. It's going to be the same outcome. All right, that's cool. We should try it. Let's see if we can run from our sprint button. All right, so I'm running. I'm going to hit the shift. I start running. I hit the shift again. I stopped running. I hit the button. I start. Hit the button. Stop. Now I'll try shift and then button. Shift and button. It's working well. And let's look at view, output, and no errors. I'm just getting my print feed out. All right, we'll turn this off. We can shrink this down. Cool. Now let's start working on our stamina. So we have stamina declared up at the top. We're going to go to our update. And the first thing we're going to worry about is if we're running. So if we're running, I'll say stamina negative equals 0.05. So this is a 5% reduction per loop iteration while we're running of stamina. So this is a negative equals, all right? And then let's check if stamina, we'll say greater than 50%, right? 0.5. Then we're going to be normal if we're greater than 50%. So I'm going to grab this code down here, Control X, and then Control C to copy it. So this is our normal state, right? Running fast. But then we could do a else if, say stamina is greater than 0.01. Let's say we have a little bit all the way up to the very last bit of stamina, but it's still less than the 50%. Let's drop us down a little bit in speed. Maybe we'll do a speed of 24. Whoops, 24. And then this is going to be a sound speed of 3, right? So it's a 75. We're doing 75% of our top speed. And then finally, we could fatigue ourselves to the point where we can't go on anymore, right? So there's going to be a final else. And this is where we're going to do our puking and stuff. So I'm going to do my update sprint state because we ran out. So we are running. So we're going to go to not running. And then the humanoid, I'm just going to stop him right here. I'm going to say walk speed equals 0. You might want to make your jump power 0 and use jump power too, right? You can still jump the way I have it. I'll put a little note here, fall and puke, right? That's what our next videos are going to be about. And then we'll just wait 8 seconds because we've got too tired. I'm going to say get back up. We need an animation for that. And then I'll just do a printout here. Totally wiped. Whoops. Totally wiped out. We can actually put it up on top. Well, yeah, let's put it up on top because we want feedback right away. Right, because we got that wait statement. We'd have to wait 8 seconds to see our feedback. All right, now not running. Well, the opposite. We're going to build our stamina back up. So I'll say stamina plus equals. So I'm going to add to stamina what is on the right of that equal sign. And I'm going to build up slower. I'm going to build up 0.025. So that's 2.5% increase in per loop iteration. And I'm going to do some if statements. I'm going to say, oh, you know what I got to do too? Because we can not be running for a long time. This could keep going and going and going. We need to cap that. So if stamina is less than 1, then we'll increase it. All right, we can't let us get up to like stamina of 50. That'll also mess up our UI. All right, now what do I got to do? Oh, let's check to see if our stamina is less than, say, 50%, 0.5. If it is, then we're going to make them walk slow. I'm going to grab this right here, Control X to cut, Control V. This is going to be a sound of 1, and then we're going to go half speed, not running. I'm going to say tired and not running. What else can we do? Let's just go right to, we'll do an else, the normal state. All right, so we'll just give 2 states for the walking. And this is what? Times 2 and times 16. And if any of you guys are good at coding, forgive me for my use of literals. I probably should have put these in variables, but the variable list would be huge. And oh, this is normal though. So I'm going to say normal walk, not running. Now, down here we're stopped. When we're stopped, we're going to break out of the running. Whether we're running or walking, we're going to force a not run. So I don't want to do my update stuff that I'm doing right here when I fatigue, my update sprint state. What I want to do is just go ahead and say, what is that? Stamina is a sprint button. The sprint button I got to change. The text I'm going to say sprint, because we went to a walk. So the next thing available is going to be the sprint. Good. And then, you know what? If we're standing still, we should recuperate faster. So I'm going to do this exact same thing. And then if we're stopped, we're not running. So this is going to fire. And then we're actually going to double our rate of healing, because this is going to fire too, up until it hits about 1, right? Right before it hits 1. Nice. We're almost done. The only thing we got to do now is work on our bar, the increase and decrease of the bar. So we have our stamina bar, say dot background color. So we have background color 3 and background color here. But if you look, I'm going to pick background color. If you look at your stamina bar, you only have background color 3. So that's kind of cool that in coding you have that extra option, because I'm going to be able to use brick color, which I know really well. I'll say brick color lime green, right? But we want it to be different colors based on how tired we are. So maybe what I'll do, I'll say if stamina is greater than maybe 0.7, I'll make that green. Let's put an end right here, or an else if. Let's do an else if. Else if stamina is greater than, what should I do, 0.35, then stamina bar dot background color brick color new. I'm going to make this smaller so you guys can see it in a second. Ooh, new yeller. That's what I want for my yellow. Oh, I know what I can do. I can just squeeze this in here. There we go. Now you can see it. And then the final thing, stamina bar, background color. We want the brick color new. And that's really red. There we go. Now we got our color changing. And we still don't have the sizing. Oh, I think I started out doing sizing. I got distracted by brick color. Let's do the sizing. I'm going to do it above this. I'll do it right here. You could do it above or below. Let's do a stamina bar dot size. And we're going to use this UDIM2. This is for universal dimension 2. So we're going to have the option of X scale, X offset, Y scale, Y offset. That's what the UDIM2 does. But you also have this really cool thing where you could do from offset, and 1 and 1 would be 100% of the parent object on the X, 100% of the parent object of the Y. You don't even need to put the pixel stuff in there. But we want to shrink the X if we get tired, and we're going to shrink it the amount of stamina, which is between 0 and 1. So this should work great. I think we're done. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Oh, look at that. Let's drain him all the way down. Slow down a little bit. He's got to go all the way. Boom. And he's stuck. I mean, he could jump, but he can't move, right? For 8 seconds. And when you're going to see this start moving again, then he's moving slow. If he stopped, it'll double the speed of recovery. Cool. All right, so that's it. Next video, we'll add the animations for the fall down and kind of get back up.